So, we haven't got any slides, but maybe we should talk a little bit about ourselves and our journey to while we're sitting here today.
Yeah, and we'd actually like to know as well, how many of you are domestic students from the UK? How many of you come from elsewhere today?
So any of you? So who's a Londoner here? Okay.
Cool.
Who's not from London?
Okay.
That's good. Well, as you know, we're going to get an idea. So Adam, I know from some time ago, but let's talk about what we do and where we are.
Okay. Well, you go first.
Okay.
And I'll follow.
So I'm a Londoner, and I went to a place called Middlesex University now. It wasn't a university then. And I started off doing graphics, and I didn't transfer to fashion. I was offered a place in fashion, but I didn't. And I went on and I did an MA at the Royal College of Art. And then I've worked ever since as an illustrator, and I teach. Funnily enough, I teach in fashion. I work with fashion designers. So I teach at Central St Martin's, and I've taught for many years over the courses on the BA, and I now teach on the MA. Now that sounds very grand, but we all have to start somewhere. And I think I'm an old gent, but we're really excited to see people like you and to discuss with people like you. You're the future, so you've got to decide what you want to do, where you want to study, what you know. So I think we're here to try and help you a bit, to help give you some suggestions or hear from you about where you think you want to be. Because I remember being, are you 17? I didn't know what I was doing at 17. Hadn't got a clue. So, I just sort of tumbled, I got into university, so I tumbled into what was an art school. So I think I think it's harder for you than it ever was for me when I was at school. So what I'm trying to encourage you is to really do your research and to think about where you want to be, where you want to study, and what you want to study, and to find out as much information as possible. And we'll try and help you with that.
Okay, all right. Is that right? Okay, hello, I'm Adam. I'm from the UK. I grew up in the southwest. I went to school with the mother of somebody sitting here. And I studied fashion and knitwear, specifically knitwear, in Brighton back in the day. And then I went to, when I finished, did an internship, do you call it an internship, a placement, in Paris. I had the chance to get over to Paris, and then I studied there for a bit. I was there doing my internship, and then they offered me a job, and I took it and never came back. So I've been there ever since school. So I'm French now, essentially. But I've done a lot of different things, but I worked for a long time for Christian Dior with John Galliano, who you probably have heard of, maybe. Yeah. And then, as it happens, I moved into education quite recently, about 4 years ago. And I work at the Institut Français de la Mode, which means the French Fashion Institute, essentially, where we have a BA and an MA course. And I'm teaching specifically, I'm head of the department for the knitwear, which is a big specialised MA, which is postgrad studies. And we have a big knitwear, an option, not a specialisation, on the BA course. And why knitwear? Because at 17, I had no idea. I knew I wanted to do fashion. I used to make clothes and sell them on the local market, and then I used to come up to Camden on the weekend and sell all this stuff that I cobbled together and then go out clubbing with the money I'd made. And so I really knew that fashion was going to be my thing, but I had no idea how. And I had the chance to go and do a foundation course, which I think a lot of you will have that possibility if you want it. And I loved doing that, and it really helped me. And we tried a lot of different things. And then when I actually did the fashion course, I enjoyed it, but we did a little bit of knitwear. And the fact of actually making something and making the material and then making the garments from the material I'd made, I thought, that's actually specifically what I want. I want to be in fashion, but there's the thing I really, really want. And that was very useful to me. And I think there's a lot of different elements we'll move on to that. My experience anyway is that specialising in fashion can be very useful. because you can have a broad idea that you want to work in fashion, you love fashion, that's what motivates you, but there's lots of different parts to that, and it's really important, like Chris says, to think about that and sort of evaluate and try and work out what really is motivating you and to make the right decision. Okay?
I mean, I'd like to, I always think I divide fashion into like, I'm going to be very simple, very, very simplistic in a way. It's like the people who want to make the clothes and the people who maybe want to report on them, photograph them. So I always think it's like a division between fashion, if it's as simple as fashion design and maybe fashion communication, stylists, photographers, makeup, hair. That's all to do with fashion. Fashion is very, very broad. So there's lots of specialisms within fashion. It's not just about women's wear, knitwear, print, bridal wear. I mean, there's also courses, making sort of underwear and sort of body conscious wear, sportswear. All that is lots of specialist courses. So I'm going to ask a question now is, who's made something for themselves or for someone else? Who's actually made themselves something? Okay, it's good. It's not a bad tick against you, but I was, but I think it's really important that really, I think something is that whole thing about wanting to make clothes, because it's about making things. And I think it's really good if you, and then maybe even just take what you're wearing and look at your wardrobe and play around with it. So I think at this level, it's not only just thinking about where you want to be, but also maybe be playful with clothes and play with them. And, obviously we're talking about many things about recycling, so you could find, upcycle things. You don't have to make everything new. You can find things and play with them. And I think that's really interesting. And I think that's, if you're applying for a course, they would be very interested to see that viewpoint, not just about designing, red carpet frocks. It's actually sometimes on a lower level. And also maybe making things, playing with textiles. I mean, your subject, knitting, a lot more people are knitting now than ever before, I think. Yeah. And doing crochet. So I think what was seen as being rather an old-fashioned craft that your granny did is now becoming much more hip and much more relevant.
Okay. I think it's important. Probably a lot of you will really like drawing, will really like artistic practice in general, but not quite sure where you would go with that. Is that the case for quite a lot of you, would you say? Yes, no, don't.
So you're at school now, so is anyone doing like a textile A-level or what sort of A-levels are you studying? What's making you want to do fashion? Is it just pure art or is it something else? Oh, come on. Art A-level, okay. So obviously you're doing, you've got your coursework, and that's obviously when you're applying, we'll see some of the coursework. But it's really good if you can get some more personal work in as well. So it can be just you dressing up with your friends or taking a jumper and doing something with it. I always think, I'm very old-fashioned in one way. I love to see drawing, and I think everything starts with a drawing. And it doesn't matter if it's a really scrappy little drawing on a napkin that you've done in Costa or Starbucks or wherever. I think it's very important if you have an idea, you put that idea down on paper and then you develop that idea. And I think that's what, when you apply to a fashion course, one of the pathways, they'll try and encourage you to do that, because it's taking something out of your head and expressing it on paper or in 3D. So it's about communicating an idea, and that's often the very first way we communicate an idea, a scribble, an idea, and then you can talk about it.
I would agree. So yes, if we were to talk about, careful, what you could perhaps put in your application, Certainly for our college in Paris, we're looking very much to understand the creative potential in a student, and it's not so much what you know as what you want to know, and to feel your motivation and to be able to project what you could potentially become. Even I agree with Chris that drawing is really important. Some people after this, you're 17, you're not so comfortable with drawing. We're quite happy with collage and different ways of expressing, because we have a lot of courses in drawing and everything that you'll learn that, you'll be coached, you'll be helped with that once you're on the course. But I would say what I find the least helpful in somebody's portfolio is when there's lots of sort of semi-academic work, when it really feels they've been given their homework and they've done something very specific and it's not very personal. When you're really looking for keys about somebody's personal story, even if you're young, it doesn't matter. You've already got things that you're passionate about, and exactly as Chris says, maybe you've upcycled something, maybe you've started spray painting t-shirts and ripping them up. That stuff, it may seem silly to you, but that might say much, much more to us in a portfolio than lots of still life drawings, because the still life drawings can show that you've got maybe an aptitude for drawing, but it won't show that you're really excited about something to do with fashion or textiles or colour or whatever. It'll be through something that really, really appeals to you. I mean, when I was young, I don't know why I went mad for tie-dyeing, and I just tie-dyed everything I get my hands on. Tie-dyeing and bleaching, and I was tie-dyed from head to toe, including my hair, and I just couldn't stop it. But because I really, really loved it. But that energy is something you can't make up. And when you catch that in somebody's work, you think, oh, this person's going to be great. When you start channeling that energy, they'll be able to do anything. And that's really as exciting, I would say, as when you're looking to recruit. That's the kind of thing you're looking for, not tie-dye specifically, but just somebody who really loves something to do with fashion, even in an abstract way.
Yeah. But I always think, in a way, sometimes start with yourself. So in a way, sometimes even photograph what you've got in your wardrobe and imagine almost the mirror image of you, like the monster in you or something, the most extreme version of you. So really, I mean, be extreme. I mean, I think it's really interesting what you do and what you wear, and fashion is about everything, really. It's about, the clothes we wear, the places we go, the clubs we go to, the music we listen to. That's so important. And when you're putting together a portfolio or thinking about your portfolio and thinking about your future career, is show us that personality. I think that's really important. And I look through hundreds of portfolios, and it's not necessarily the person who draws beautifully or can make something wonderfully. There is something, you just see something, you go, oh, this is really exciting. It can just be they've knitted balaclavas and they've done something with them, or they've photographed, or even, I mean, I always think it's quite important sometimes having a link to an Instagram account, not the Instagram account that's with you and your mates on holiday, and having fun, but maybe an Instagram account you create which is just you looking at people on the street or colour or anything. So there's lots of things you can look at. So if we're going to explore about choices, so who knows the difference between, say, who knows what they want to do? Does anyone want to do? They want to do, say, women's wear, menswear, or women's wear textiles. Who wants to do fashion women's wear, or fashion design? Let's go fashion design. Okay, very brave. Come on. What about textile? What about more towards textiles, making the fabric? Okay, it's really good. So in a way, you start to think about. So in a way, you can ask yourself questions about what you think you're good at, what you think your work is going towards, and then doing your research, whether it's in Paris or in London or in Bristol or in Manchester, about courses which you feel are right for you and right, because in a way, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. It's trying to find, you are one piece within the jigsaw puzzle, and it's finding the right place for you to fit in. And there are lots of choices for you.
Yes, I agree with that. I think it's, obviously I'll speak from the point of view of somebody who's come over today from Paris, so we've the school there. I think it can be really interesting in today's landscape to think about, if you can afford it. Obviously, I'm not crazy, but if there's a possibility for you to come to study abroad, I think it can be a really interesting choice, because already it opens you up so much going on to do a foundation course. Certainly, anybody who has the chance to do a foundation course, I would say do it. I think it's a great thing to do. I loved mine. I think it's really important, and being just 1 year older and had the time to just mature and learn to what self-initiated study looks like, as opposed to study at school. It's a very different beast, and it can really help you then when you get to a degree to be more ready to study on your own and grow. But certainly the option of studying abroad can be really great, because it broadens your horizons, and just seeing a very different landscape than you've been used to can really open you up, and that's what we see a lot with the students. Obviously, it's a melting pot when you've got people coming from all over and sharing. Our courses we run them in English and in French. It's about 70% English and 30% French, I would say, in what's spoken. But I can't speak for the American colleges that are present downstairs, but I certainly think when I was your age, we didn't really have that option of studying abroad.
No.
We didn't really think of it, but nowadays things have opened up. So if that's something that's interesting to you, I would say could be a really good possibility.
I'm going to say the other thing is, of course, we were talking earlier on about our education, and when we were educated, university didn't really cost us anything. It was actually almost like a free education, so we were very lucky and we were very privileged in that. Yeah. And obviously we're very aware now how much it costs. And I think if you are thinking about, investing in your future, obviously a university degree is great, and it will help you get a better job, and it's how maybe in medicine or maybe in law or whatever. But I think what I would say is that if there are jobs within fashion, and if you're good, you will get a well-paid job. Obviously, you can go up the ladder of being a junior designer and working up. You've got people, the famous fashion designers, and then there's, the ones who are, more independent. It's where you see yourself. It's all I'm thinking about is investing in yourself. Obviously, it's quite a bit of money for yourselves or your parents, or your grandparents, or family to put into you. But actually, think about, I've invested in I've been doing it for a long time, and many people I know have been doing it for a long time, and they continue to do it. I don't know if you know of a fashion designer called Bruce Oldfield. Do you know if anyone have heard of him? Bruce Oldfield he's very interesting. He went to Central St Martin's. He was an orphan. He was a Bernardo boy. He was mixed race. You can say that he was one of the first, I think, within Central St Martin's. And he's now, I suppose, I wouldn't say maybe he's 70, but he has continued to work as a fashion designer. He designed for Princess Diana. He designs for, Prince Charles's wife, Camilla. So he's been doing it a long time. So he's still earning his money. He's maybe not as famous as he once was. So I think there's a thing where you look at your career as a very long-term thing. It's not just, you're young now, and being 25 seems like such a long way off. But actually, if any of you were interviewed for a course, and I'm sure they would ask you, what do you think you'll be doing when you're 25? And you're thinking, so it's looking at your ambition. So they're very interested, whichever university, is very interested about where you see yourself. And I think that's the thing about that selection. You think, okay, we may not tie you down to you want to do fashion menswear or fashion communication or fashion styling, but you know you're interested in fashion, and that's the starting point, and you need to build on that. Okay. So it's very heavy.
Yeah, I'll share an anecdote with you. I can remember very well after my foundation course, even before I went on the foundation course, having a discussion with my dad, who was an engineer, and saying, well, I really want to do something in art, I want to do a foundation course, then I probably want to do fashion, and him saying, oh my God, Adam, you won't make any money, how are you going to live, this is terrible. And it was scary because he was really convinced, and I said, well, I don't know, but I just know that's what I really, really want to do. And he said, well, of course we'll support you, we got a grant, so the support wasn't quite what it is today, but he did give me a lot of support, and I went off and did it. But when I was 28, I moved to Christian Dior, and I was earning more than him. And he was so proud. He said, oh, it's the proudest day of my life. So it can happen. I mean, he wasn't earning millions either, but it felt like a really big jump for him, really scary that I was going to off and do this crazy thing and die in the gutter. But no, I quite quickly managed to get a reasonably well-paid job and then build up, and it can happen. There's place, and we have a mutual friend who's actually head of BA fashion at CSM, who I was at university with, and I remember we were in our first year. I was in my first. She was in her second year at Brighton on our degree courses, and I was saying, "Oh dear, do you think we'll get work at the end of this?" And she said to me, "Oh, you know, Adam, there's a place for everybody." And it's so reassuring. Although, I mean, what the hell did she know at that time? But she was absolutely right, and there was. And all of us that were really passionate and really wanted it, we all found work, and we're all working still in fashion today. And I really would reassure you that if you really care about it, you really want to do it, I really do think you'll find something. You'll find your way. You'll make your path. It's not so daunting as it seems. If you really believe in yourself and you believe in what you're doing, somehow it just unravels and it happens.
I mean, it's hard work, and I think you don't get anywhere without hard work. I mean, and I know you're probably doing your A-levels at the moment, and it'd obviously be great if you get great grades, but in the end, I mean, we're in a profession when, I mean, I've got an MA from the Royal College of Art. No one has ever asked me for what my GCSE, my O-levels were at the time, my A-levels were, what my first degree was, what my second. They always go on the work I produce. And I think that's, in a way, if you make it for yourself, and I would say that's the aim, is to do it for yourself, and then others will love what you do.